second episode of Good Sports, where tonight we're finally here. It's the NFL Draft, and we will find out which teams improved and which teams missed opportunities to help their roster. I am Randy Goode, and we will be talking tonight about some different teams, some select teams. We will get fan reactions. We'll ask them who they think they should pick and get their reactions, which should be a whole bunch of fun. We will have different people on that will talk about their teams, from the 49ers, the Cowboys, the Steelers, the Chiefs, Rams, and possibly the Seahawks as well. And this is time where everybody's going to have their own reaction. It's going to be raw. It's going to be a lot of fun, but they will be honest opinions. And so we are looking forward to that. We'll find out if they agree with who their team picks or if they look like, what in the world are you doing? As always, if you like what you hear and see, please hit the subscribe button and like it. We would love to have as many people on there as possible. Give your thoughts and feedback so we can help bring you the best content possible, and that will encourage us to do that. One thing to watch will be tonight to see which teams move up in the draft, which teams decide to move down, and who wants more picks and what they do with that. Will we find maybe some franchise-type players that helps change the course and direction going forward? We don't know. We'll have to see. Some teams will succeed. Some teams will maybe fail a little bit. It'll be interesting seeing all of the trades. Will the 49ers do something with Brandon Ayuk? Will they sign him long-term, maybe later on in the summer? Will they trade him? What will happen? Who are going to be those quarterbacks that make it? Who will also get a franchise tackle to change things? Tonight, we will be going back and forth with different teams. We will be joined live when those teams pick, and we will have, starting as of now, it's the Seahawks at 16. Then we have the Rams at 19, and we have some more. And so when they're ready to pick those select teams that I'd mentioned before, we will get their opinions, we will get their reaction, and we will find out how things go. However, trades can change things, so the order can always change, and we're going to adapt to that. So sit back, relax, enjoy yourself, as I will as well, and let's get things going. All right, so we are back right now. We're halfway through the draft. A few surprises that have happened with a quarterback being taken from Washington a little bit earlier than I think most people thought. Joined with us right now is Randy Mead. So he's going to be talking all things Seahawks, and so they are going to be on the clock here in just a bit. What do you think, Randy, are some of the things the Seahawks need to do going forward?
Well, I'm really excited about my team this year. I think this is going to be our year. So, and looking at what holes we can fill, I think on the defensive side of the ball, on the front seven. So we need an edge rusher. A defensive tackle would be nice. But I'm also considering, I'm going to see what this last pick is, but an offensive tackle could be strong for us. So I'm thinking on the line, either defensively or on an offensive line.
Yeah, well, and right now we've got the Colts that are on the clock, I believe, and so they got about 5 minutes before. You got a new coach now. What do you think about the new era? What do you think is going to be the identity now?
Well, I like the pick. I like Mike McDonald. I think he's a defensive coach. He comes with a defensive background, and as I think we've seen, defense wins championships. So I'm excited what we have in store coming up.
Well, you look at how Seattle grew and started dominating when they got the Legion of Boom. It all started on the defensive end. So, it'll be interesting to see how they do. Let's see. We've got a few people that have fallen. Are you thinking more D tackle, or are you thinking edge, or what are you thinking?
With Mike McDonald being there, I think that we're maybe going to lead towards the defensive side of the ball. And are you want me to make my pick, or are we just kind of seeing what's going on here?
Well, what do you think? What do you think they'll take?
Well, I think with that defensive emphasis, I'm thinking edge rusher. And for me, I like Latu from UCLA.
Oh, you think he's the best? Yeah, some people are saying that.
Yeah.
You've got a couple pass rushers still available. Halfway through the first round, usually they're taken right at the top. but because of quarterbacks and tackles and whatnot have been so good in this draft that things have fallen. And so they might have an opportunity to get that. They got Turner you can get.
Yep.
So you got a
He's a
couple
good player.
choices. So, I mean, obviously we still have the Colts up right now. So see what they pick. But if you like both of those, you get one. Or do you think Seattle will, history tells us in the past, they used to trade out a lot of times. Do you think they'll want more picks or do you think they want to go for the premium spot?
You know, that's a possibility. They might move out and try to sort of build what they have for the future. But I'm thinking they're going to go take this pick. I think they want to build it now, and we want to win now. So I'm hoping that they stay here and then take that selection. And like you said, there's more defensive players on the board than we thought. You know, there's been a lot of offensive picks, and I was kind of holding out hope that we might get a quarterback. But at this point, you know, it's not looking like that's an option. So
What do you think of Penix going so early?
I was surprised by that. You know, I think local guy, he might have been a good fit if he was still available for our first pick, but you know, they must have known something that maybe we don't know.
Yeah, sometimes you watch things and you scratch your head going, what are they doing? But like you said, they know more than we do. They've watched millions of hours. But also we see draft picks that you wonder what they're thinking, and it's confirmed afterwards when it doesn't work out.
Yeah.
And GMs get fired. But you know, in the end, it all depends on do they produce or do they not produce.
Yep.
And so
Yep.
it will be interesting. What do you think are the strengths of the Seahawks?
You know, I think the Seahawks have a history of just playing tough on defense, and sometimes that's been because our offense wasn't very good. So, you know, back thinking when the offense was operating at full tilt with Russ, and you know, we were doing some really good things, and we had the Legion of Boom on defense. That was great. Now, what, you know, Pete, I think, brought a toughness and a competitiveness that has been a strength and an identity of the team. And so I'm hoping with Mike McDonald coming in, we can continue that and maybe even take that a step further this season.
Yeah, they're definitely, I mean, they start on the back end. I mean, you've got your cornerback set. And what do you think of the drafts recently? You guys nailed the draft way back in the day, and that changed everything. When you got Earl Thomas and when you got Sherman cheap and you had Russell Wilson and all these people cheap, it changed everything. And then you guys had a drought there for a while, and it kind of felt, and then the last couple years, you've nailed it again. What do you think of those previous draft picks with the cornerbacks and tackle? I mean, you got Cross, who started right off as your tackle. You got a running back. I mean, you guys have done really well recently.
Yeah. I like how we've been building that foundation, and you know, this pick's coming in here soon, but we've got some good stuff going. We've had some success, and I feel like we're going to continue that this season. And the picks that we're going to have this year, I think, are going to really help us.
Yeah, well, it will be interesting to see. It does look like the Colts pick are in. I always like watching the draft because when they show the draft room, every time they show it, and when they realize they're on camera, they all clap. They're always happy. But you know, behind the scenes, there's probably 60% are arguing for one person, and 40% or whatever are saying, no, take this person, but they all have to clap and look in unison.
Yeah, and that's part of being in an organization and on a team is once you make that pick, you gotta
join.
make the best out of it, even if it wasn't what you were hoping for. And for me, you know, I wish there was a few players still on the board here, but whoever we end up with, we're gonna move forward and make the best out of it.
Yeah. Where do you think Seattle will fall right now going forward in the NFC West? Where do you think they'll land?
It's hard to say. You know, there's some tough teams there, and year to year, sometimes there's surprises. But I think, you know, I think expectations might be a little low for us coming in. But I would say the middle of the pack. But we could surprise some people depending on how this draft plays out, and some of our young guys step up. We could make an impact.
Yeah. Well, the big thing is if you nail the draft and you get key positions for cheap, like you got your left tackle who's on a rookie contract, you got your cornerbacks. Those are high-paid people. And so last year they played really well. I mean, I think they did better than I thought they were going to do, and they were in it. And, you know, at the end, they didn't probably reach exactly what they wanted, but I think they overachieved for a lot of what a lot of teams thought.
Yep.
And they
looks
did
like they
really
got my
well.
guy there. They got my guy. So
he's off the board.
yeah.
So the Colts got
That's
it,
a
but you
tough
still
pick.
have another edge rusher out there. Turner's
We do,
still
we do.
available.
So-
Who some people have him rated higher. but
Yeah,
you
he's
know,
coming out of Alabama. You know, he's proven himself there against some tough competition.
Ladu, well, the one thing about him is he did have the medical retired early on in his career, and so he was done. And then he went back and got a second opinion, and they came back and said, "Okay, I think he's good," and he was able to play. But whenever you have that in your history at the NFL level, I mean, I don't know how many teams have said, "Okay, we're going to take a chance on this guy. His knee's bad, but I think if we give him a year's rest and then they keep him, and 2 years later they're releasing him." So he's a real gamble. You could have high reward, Ladu, but you
durability's huge, you know, and he's 6'4", 260. That's a big guy.
Yeah.
And I think durability is big. You know, I played with a guy named Michael Ruse that played for the Tennessee Titans. Played several years in the NFL, and he never had any injuries, you know, and he 6'7", and coming out, he played several years at left tackle, and I think durability is key, and that was one thing that he had, and so I think that's one thing that they're looking for is injuries and how guys have produced and come along in college, because a lot of times those things will come back and bite them when they get into the NFL, because there's a lot of pounding that they take week in and week out in the NFL.
And it's if you're already you're getting beat up at college, when you go to the pros, it's a whole different. Now you got 330 pounders that are running 5-second 40s, and it's just what they can wrap. You know, it's amazing what they've got, and so you want to be at full strength. So hopefully, I mean, he did play and he seemed like he did well. Hopefully that was in the past. But when you hear medically retired, it's got to be a red flag to at least consider.
Yeah, you know, and that's something to consider as well. And just kind of how will he adapt to the elements? You know, playing in California, you know, that's one thing about playing in the Northwest. It's different playing up in Seattle. You know, it's cold, and I think that's an advantage that we have. And so we want guys that are going to last and have that toughness. And I think Coach Pete did a good job of coaching that. And I'm hoping that will be in this next era as well.
Now, you played college football?
Yes.
What position did you play?
Yeah, I started out on the defensive line and then transitioned over to play center after that, my final 4 years. So switched from the defensive line to the offensive line.
And what did you like better? Totally different position. So you're kind of as a center, you're the quarterback of the offensive line. But what did you like better, offense or defense?
I like defense better, the aggressive nature of it. And that was one of the advantages I had on offense, because they moved me over there and I had more of a defensive mentality.
Yeah.
And so they liked that on the offensive line. And my offensive line coach, Aaron Best, was very aggressive, and so he liked that. And he's now the head coach at Eastern Washington. So he had an intensity about him, and he liked for us to play that way as well.
Yeah. Well, now is your experience on the defensive line influencing your desire for a pick for the Seahawks as wanting somebody on the defensive line, or is it just what you think the Seahawks need?
Well, you know, I think it's a mixture of things. I think the defense is so important in the NFL, and we've seen that. You know what? But even as his pick's coming up, and my guy from UCLA is off the board, I'm actually gonna maybe change my suggestion up, if that's okay.
Yeah, you can do that. We allow that here. You got to be flexible.
My second pick was on the offensive line.
Oh,
you know, and as we talked about that, I think there's some tough defenses in the league, and so I'm thinking we need an offensive tackle, and I think taking a local guy, Washington. Yeah, I'm gonna go with Big Troy.
Okay.
Fontenot out of Washington, and I've heard a lot of good things about him, and I think he could be a pillar on our offensive line. So just seeing the way the drafts went so far, and kind of where we've been on offense, I think it's going to be important to shore that up. So I'm hoping that they're going to go with him.
Okay, then that gives you 2 solid tackles for maybe the next 5, 10 years if you get the second contract. Then you have the cornerback set, and you'd be sitting well. So it will be interesting to see, what's it say, 2.5, 3 minutes to go before the Seahawks pick is in. And so it doesn't look at this point like they're trading out. So they used to do this every year.
Yeah.
We'd watch, and I'd see Seahawk fans excited. And that says looks like the pick is in.
And we are excited. I mean, I think there's a level of excitement with Seahawks fans, and that's a commitment to their team and to our team that you don't see for a lot of organizations. And so there's a lot of optimism
Yep.
in the organization, I think, and where we're headed. So
Whenever you get a new coach, there's like a new, fresh start. And Pete Carroll was such an iconic figure and did so many wonderful things. So sure, there's a lot of mixed emotion seeing him go.
yeah,
But when you get somebody
Yeah.
new, it's just, I don't know, it's new. It's like Christmas time. It's like, what are we going to get? What are we going to
It is,
see?
yeah.
And you just think you have all these expectations and the bar is raised because you don't really know where it's going to be. But you have some cornerstones there, so it will be interesting to see what they do. But I know in the past we've watched the draft, and with Seahawks fans, they're excited and they sit and they wait 3 hours for their pick when they were doing really well, and then they'd trade out. And then the next year they'd come back and it'd be like, okay, here we are. We're going to pick in the first round. And they wait 3.5 hours because they're a little further down in the draft. And then they trade out. But
yeah, there's some disappointment there.
But it's interesting. In the draft, I was seeing something. They talked about the players that have the highest success rates of getting second contracts in the first round. Do you know the number one position that has the highest success rate? It's center.
Okay.
At 92%.
Wow.
And the worst is wide receiver, and I think it was like 30% or something like that.
Wow.
So I always wonder if teams are taking that in consideration, that wide receiver is so hard to pick, but like a center position seems like if you get that person, you can tell more likely that they are going to succeed, and that's pretty significant. So I wonder how much that weighs into what teams do.
I think it does, and center doesn't get as much publicity as a lot of positions do, and I think it's an integral part to the offensive success to have a signal caller there that the quarterback trusts. The offensive line trusts, that's an important piece. And the center, is common knowledge that it is the smartest guy on the offensive line.
Right.
So not just because I was a center, but, they are
That's
pretty
true.
intelligent guys.
Well, they say they're the quarterback of the line.
They are, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, you have to know what's going on and be able to read the defense. And some of those big guys on the outside on the offensive line aren't as smart. So you got to be ready to
patient with them.
Yeah.
Yep. You have to talk to them the right way because those guys on the outside are big boys. So you got to motivate them, but
fire them up once in a while, smack them in the helmet. So
I'm always interested in this. So it says the pick is in, and they say the pick is in for like a long period of time.
Yeah.
And they wait for commercials and all that kind of stuff. But I think they just like to leave.
And they were looking at Turner there, so I don't know if they maybe know something that maybe we do. I know that people are expecting that we're going to go with that defensive.
I'm surprised Turner's still available. He was mocked and many to go sooner, much sooner. A lot of people had him go to Denver and different things like that. Obviously, Denver went with the quarterback Bo.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's interesting. It'll be interesting to see what they do and where they go. I remember years ago, was it 2011 or something like that? I think it was Minnesota's pick. I don't know. It was one of those teams picked, and they didn't get their pick in time.
Oh.
And if you don't get it in time, the next team can immediately pick. And so the next team just said, we want our guy. And then the next team went, we want our guy. And the next team, and there was like 3 or 4 picks later, and finally they got their pick in.
Oh, man.
And they went from whatever it was, the 7th pick to the 11th pick. And who knows?
I've had that in my fantasy draft. I don't know if that's similar, but that's
yes.
The stakes are a little higher here. So, but that can be a bad feeling when you start dropping on the board.
I wish one day in my life, I wish I could go into a draft room and watch what they do. Because the intensity. I don't know if you've ever seen the movie Draft Day, but I mean, behind the scenes, how many picks are they? Are they saying 4 different teams are trying to trade up or you're trying to trade down? But you say, okay, we're going to take this guy if nothing happens. And then they throw at you, well, we'll throw in an extra 3rd round pick. And then they have to do the draft chart and they have to see everything. There's another commercial.
Yeah, interesting. One thing to just plug there was we were talking about centers and that importance in the quarterback position. So just this last week, Eric Meyer, who was the quarterback at Eastern Washington University while I was there, just got inducted into the Big Sky Hall of Fame. So
nice.
A big accomplishment. And I was able to play center with him for one season, his first year as a starting quarterback. So it's fun to see people get recognition down the line, and having a long-lasting career, I think, is important. So like you said, I think offensive line is very important, and just being able to protect the signal caller.
Well, here we go. It looks like they might, they only had 10 minutes to pick, but it seems like they had 20 minutes to make this selection.
Yeah, they must have been thinking about, I think there's going to be a good pick right here. Let's see what happens.
Here we go. Seahawks pick is in. The commissioner is now talking, and we'll find out if the Seahawks future continues where they've been nailing the draft the last 2 years.
It's going to be a big boy. I'm not sure which side of the ball. Let's see here.
Let's see.
Oh,
that was not
Okay.
expected. They went well. So is that offensive tackle? Is that defensive tackle?
Defensive tackle.
Okay.
Yeah, right there.
All right.
Byron Murphy II out of Texas.
Oh, Texas. Okay.
Yeah.
There we go. I'm surprised at that one.
Yeah.
I am surprised, and I would say that that pick would be questioned by a lot of people.
Yeah.
I don't even have them on this board.
He is. He was on my board at 19, but he is
19.
with a top-rated defensive tackle.
Yes.
So
Yes. 19.
they must have felt like they needed an interior defensive lineman there.
Yeah. Well, if you can stuff the run and you can get to the quarterback, if you get to the quarterback and you have the cornerbacks like you have, I mean that's tough.
Yep.
And
And
so
I've seen some footage on this guy, and he's a big boy.
yeah.
He's a run stuffer. Reminds me back in the day when we had big Cortez Kennedy.
Yeah.
You know, we could use some size up front there on the D line.
Well, if you got a big boy up there and they clogs the middle, looks like he's got some speed too. There's nothing wrong with that.
We'll take it.
Yeah.
We'll take it. All right.
Okay.
Go
All
Hawks.
right. Well, hey, congratulations to your Seattle
Yeah,
Seahawks.
we're
Hopefully
ready.
things will go well for you, and we'll go from there, and we'll come back, and we'll be at the 19th pick when we come back,
Okay.
and the Rams will be up unless there's a
Okay.
trade.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. Go Hawks.
All right, we are back. It's the 19th pick. The Rams are up. Randy's joining us again.
Yep.
Who do you think the Rams are going to be taking? It looks like the pick is in. What do you think they need?
Well, I'm really excited about this pick in the Rams this season. We lost Aaron Donald, and I think the defensive front is crucial. So I'm going to go with the best defensive player on the board still, and that's Jared Verse
Florida
from the
State?
Florida State Seminoles.
Yeah.
Yeah, good, versatile player, a lot of speed and strength. I think he'll help us on the against the run, and he's a decent pass rusher. So I'm excited about that.
Well, man, the Rams have done so well with the receiver core that they have. Just ridiculous group. How long do you think Stafford's going to be able to still play at a high level?
Well, with the receivers like Cooper Kupp, you know, that does a lot for a quarterback. So I think he's got a couple more years in him, and I think that McVay will do a good job bringing a few defensive players in here to stop the other team, and I think Stafford's going to put points on the board. So
yeah, well,
excited.
losing Aaron Donald was a big
that
loss.
was big.
I mean, you don't replace him. I mean, you never get an Aaron Donald. That's rare, but they do have some other players, and it looks like the pick is in, and you nailed
Good
it.
pick.
They got him.
Good pick right there. That's a good, smart pick.
They got the edge rusher, and it's Florida State, so it'll be interesting to see what they do with him and how he fits in with the team. And I think good things are in store for the Rams going forward.
Yeah.
I mean, they're really starting to fill holes. So it'll be interesting to see what they do with the rest of their picks, but they seem like they've been doing well recently.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, Randy. Excited about the Rams, excited about this pick with Jared Verse, and I think you're going to see some really great things out of our team this year. So
all right.
Stay tuned.
Good deal. Thanks for joining us, Randy.
Thanks, Randy.
All right, we are back, and it's the 20th pick now. We got Pittsburgh is on the clock. It looks like the pick is in, although they always take like 4 or 5 minutes. We are joined by Craig Dodd. He is a Pittsburgh
There's
fan.
an S at the end of it, Randy.
Dodds.
Thank you.
So how are you doing, and are you excited? What do you think they're going to do here with this pick?
Right now, I'm highly upset. Okay.
I understand that.
The Bengals just picked 2 picks before me, and of course they took
the tackle.
They took my tackle. Okay.
Yeah.
But that's okay. There's diamonds in the rough.
Yes.
All right.
Now, would you prefer to pick here, or would you prefer to trade here?
I would love to trade the 20th overall pick to your San Francisco 49ers for your Brandon Ayuk and whatever contract he would like. Yes.
That would be
Come
nice.
on down, brother.
You've got a couple quarterbacks coming up, and who's going to start for Pittsburgh this year?
Oh man, it's gonna be Russell.
Yes.
But if Justin Field balls out in the summer, we're in for one heck of a diva show in Pittsburgh again. I'm guaranteeing that. So
And then if it were to actually get Ayuk, but it looks like Doesn't look like it. Looks like the pick is in for the Steelers, so it doesn't look like they're making the trade with the 49ers.
Unless they're picking for the Niners right now.
We could do
They're
after
going to
the
come out
fact.
and announce that. Like, why did you guys get a punter? It's what the 49ers wanted. That's what we're shooting for.
The punter. Hopefully for all our teams, the punter is not as relevant.
Yes.
That's not what you want. If your punter is your best player, you're probably drafting at the beginning of the draft.
Yeah, they're already gone.
So what position that's left that you would say you lost your tackle, you didn't get the guy you wanted, but if you do, it looks like you did make the pick. It's coming up here. We'll know here in just seconds. Who do you think they should take that's left?
So if we can't get your wide receiver, I would want to draft an offensive lineman. So I want the Powers Johnson guy from Oregon now.
Oh, going center.
The center, yeah.
He's good.
Because we kind of just have floating issues on our offensive line. We drafted an offensive lineman last year with our number 1 pick. I wanted his teammate from Georgia, Mims, so Broderick Jones' his teammate, so they could have some cohesion there. That's not going to happen because of the Bengals. So I'm still hoping for this other guy. You can't really go wrong with an offensive lineman because if they do go wrong, you can't really see it, and they'll just shuffle them out.
They're not shiny.
Yeah, they're not shiny. I mean, we have a great wide receiver in George Pickens. I think we'll see more of that this year if Russell Wilson's throwing him the football. So I don't think we really need to go after an number 1 receiver when we kind of have one and everybody's kind of known that. It's like, get George the ball. I'm with him on that. So offensive line's it for me. That's where I think we need the most help.
So, but you would prefer a Brandon Ayuk and a Pickens.
I would.
That would be a
definitely
pretty good
prefer. I mean,
dynamic
if I
duo.
could get a Pro Bowl wide receiver who torched my team last year for 2 touchdowns and like 150 yards, yeah, give me that guy for sure.
It's nice of you to forgive him. If you can't beat him, join him.
Yeah, I'd say come on over now that week 1 is over.
That's right. That was a long time ago.
Yeah.
So what do you think you guys need to do in the overall draft to help you propel yourself back towards the top of the AFC North? Because that is, in my opinion, the hardest division in football. You've got a lot of teams there with a lot of great players.
Yeah, I mean, it's really difficult because there's also, you have like one really good running team in the Ravens with the combo now of, what's his name, King Henry, and then you have Lamar Jackson, who's like the ultimate / quarterback.
Yep.
Then you go to Joe Burrow, who's just an awesome quarterback. And then whoever Cleveland's got rolling around. Oh, yeah. The Predator.
Yeah.
Sorry.
They are stacked. I mean, you got some great quarterbacks. And then and you guys have some, we're hoping to be great quarterbacks on your team.
Yeah.
So,
we're trying.
You're
We're taking the free handouts right now.
yeah.
The flyers.
Well, Russell Wilson, the nice thing is it's not like he's costing you a lot of money. So you
No.
got him cheap. Denver's helping fund your team.
Oh yeah,
That's gotta
40
make you
million
feel good.
basically worth. So,
Yeah.
and we're gonna play them, but here they go. It looks like they're gonna.
The pick is in. It always takes them a while. They like to have their faces on camera for a while.
Yep.
So the commissioner's there, and
That's big Cam Hayward right there. It looks like
Yeah.
gonna ring it home. It must be a defensive guy if Cam's out there.
What are all the positions you think you guys need to fill?
I would
Besides
take
offensive?
another defensive back. We went with Joey Porter Jr. last year. I thought that was a good choice.
You got some top corners still left on the board.
I mean, it's really, I mean, in the AFC alone, let alone my division, it is great quarterback play. So you've got to be able to cover wide receivers.
Well, here we go. They're
So,
slowly announcing the pick, drawing this out as long as
come on,
possible.
I would love to take Powers
Here we
Johnson
go.
just because there's a Cowboys fan coming in here in a little bit too, and he can cry
Oh,
about it.
yes, he will be sad.
That would be satisfying to me, honestly.
Just because?
Just because.
I would be happy with that too. Anything to make Cowboy fans sad is a good thing. So,
We got-
boy, I tell you what, they really know how to stall this thing out.
oh, yeah.
Well,
And we're driving it home. He's got to talk to us Steelers fans very carefully. We get highly emotional in times like this.
yeah. Well,
Basically, he's letting us know we're drafting nobody anybody here knows. This is a Pittsburgh tradition.
how long's Tomlin been with you guys now?
We got him in 06.
06. I mean,
yeah,
you
so-
guys there you go.
Troy Fontaine.
You got the guard.
We got a Washington guy. I said Powers.
Sometimes they don't listen.
No.
They don't always do
Shoot.
exactly what you want. He's rated really high. So
Okay.
he is a good He's a guard. That's not necessarily the glamour position,
No.
but he is supposed to be really good. So yeah, Troy Fautano, I believe.
Look,
and
I've got,
Washington's had a
I've got
lot
a
of
Troy
picks here early.
Polamalu.
Oh,
We'll
okay.
take a Troy
You're-
Fautanu.
Yeah, you're close. You're close. So,
Yeah.
well, you shored up the offensive line a little bit. You talked about the offensive line. It's
Yep.
not necessarily bad to do.
Oh, we'll take a guard.
Yep.
David DeCastro was a mean old nasty guard. I
Yeah.
remember his little pro day thing like this. He goes to bed angry and wakes up angry. So if we can get a guy like that, that's great. And like I said, an offensive lineman, if they're not performing very well, you never really know.
Yeah.
Especially like we had Broderick Jones last year. He was a high end pick. We traded up for him. You know, they're kind of raw a little bit, but over a couple of years, they usually pan out.
Now, to
Unless they're-
give you still hope, but I don't think you have hope, the 49ers do need a guard. They
Really?
would have liked him, but we really need, the 49ers really need, I think, an offensive tackle more, but we need an offensive tackle and a guard. So I'm just leaving that out there as a little bit of hope for maybe a later trade, but
maybe.
I think it's false hope. But
I think it is now too.
well, Craig Dodds, thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see what Pittsburgh does going forward.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we are back, and the Eagles are up next. And so we are joined by Trent Sneed, an Eagles fan, and we'll call him an expert tonight, and he is excited. So what are you thinking how the draft is working so far? What do you think?
Well, I'm definitely an Eagles expert at least.
All right.
I don't know about a football expert, but definitely an Eagles expert.
Perfect. How do you think the draft is falling for the Eagles as of now?
So far, my mock draft is definitely not looking 100% accurate, but I did actually put in my mock draft that our cornerback of our future is going to fall all the way to 22.
Oh.
And no one saw that coming. I just want to put that out there. I at least got that part of it right. This is the thing. I don't think anyone expected this many quarterbacks, this many tackles, this many wide receivers going in the first round. We didn't even pick a defensive player until what, 14 or something like that.
Yeah.
Who was the first defensive player?
Latu? Was it Latu?
Yeah, 15.
Yeah.
So there wasn't a defensive player until 15, and I completely predicted that we were just going to see offensive tackles and quarterbacks just go like crazy. 5 quarterbacks in the first couple.
I'm surprised at Penix.
Unreal. Blow my mind.
What the Falcons were doing.
You signed a $100 million contract with Kirk, and now you're just going to go right to Penix. Holy smokes. I hope they can get out of that deal somehow in the next year.
Yes.
That being said, the Eagles are going to be on the clock here soon, and my biggest fear for this whole draft is Jacksonville was picking before us, and Jacksonville's major need was cornerback. And I'm sitting there thinking, oh my God, we're going to get all the way to 17 right before the Eagles, and if we don't jump to 16 with Seattle, there goes our cornerback of our future. Right. And then it gets to Jacksonville's pick. They trade out of it with Minnesota.
Beautiful for you.
Beautiful. Oh my gosh. Howie Roseman's sitting there going, why would they do that for us?
Yeah.
Why would they give us that good of a deal? Because everyone afterwards, you look at the Bengals, they're not going to go without getting a tackle. They just spent half a season with no Joe Burrow because they didn't have a lineman.
Yeah.
Right.
That's the second time they had that problem with Joe Burrow. His first year, they
Yep.
didn't block him, and last year.
Yep. And then you go to the Rams, they're not going to go without taking a defensive lineman.
Yep.
Because guess what? They just lost the
Aaron
best
Donald.
defensive lineman in the last 10 years,
Yeah.
right? And then you get to the Steelers. Okay, well, the Steelers are they're either going to take a defensive lineman, linebacker, or an offensive lineman, right?
Yeah.
And they took an offensive lineman last year, and guess what? They go right back to offensive lineman, which makes a lot of sense. They now have 2 bookend tackles,
Yep.
which is fantastic for them. Good
Yeah.
for the Steelers. But they're going to protect whoever's going to be playing quarterback down there, whether it's
Fields, Russell Wilson, whoever.
or someone they
Yes.
pick up off the off of free agency. Dolphins pick just came in. Look at that! Oh my God!
So they took the edge rusher, Chop Robinson. So that leaves your cornerback available.
So this is where it gets difficult, right? So the quarterback I really want is Quinyon Mitchell out of
Yep.
Toledo. I think he is all around the best cornerback you could possibly ask for. He's not going to be Sauce Gardner, I don't think, but I think he's a valid number 1, 100%. I don't think he's a miss, that's for sure. My biggest fear is we were going to have Quinyon Mitchell get picked before us, And then we were going to be left with the 2 Alabama cornerbacks, Kool-Aid McKinstry or Terrion Arnold. So now we're sitting here. We're on the clock. We got 4 minutes to make a selection. This is what scares me.
They're going to overthink it?
Man, last year I just sat there and I said, don't draft Nolan Smith. I said it over and over again. And they ended up taking Nolan Smith. And I was like, what were you thinking? And we don't know if Nolan Smith's going to pan out yet. We don't know. But I just hear everyone in the draft room right now going, Cooper DeJean. Just take Cooper DeJean. And I'm sitting here thinking, you know what my wife would say? He's got a good smile. He's got a good smile. And I'm like, good Lord, please
Don't go
me.
for the smile.
Don't take the smile.
He looks solid, though.
Howie, if for some reason you ever see this, stop picking him by the smile. Makes my wife happy, makes me super sad. All I'm going to say is they just do the easy thing, take Quinyon Mitchell here. And ultimately, you know, I kind of put 2 of my mock drafts for the Eagles together, and one was either we were going to move up to take Quinyon or we were going to trade back and take Nate Wiggins. So, you know, I wouldn't leave it out of options here that we trade back. I could see it happening. I know Arizona's kind of maybe looking to move up here. This is a position Arizona was possibly looking up with that first overall pick. So we'll see here shortly, but you know, I still wouldn't leave it out of question that we can move back.
Usually those trades though happen before 2 minutes on the clock.
I would hope so.
So I think you're gonna get your pick.
Oh gosh.
He's slowly making his way to the podium, which means in about 10 minutes he'll actually say the pick because he likes to see himself on camera. That is the commissioner.
Yeah.
But I think you might be getting your player. Do you think would you prefer to take back-to-back cornerbacks, first round, second round?
No.
Safety?
Preferably, the dream scenario here is we get a cornerback in the first round. That means we nail this cornerback, and then we go to linebacker or we take another lineman.
Okay. Well, and then the report came out about A.J. Brown today,
Oh
and
my
you've
gosh.
had Devontae Adams.
Oh, my
You guys are
gosh.
pretty set on the receivers. You got your quarterback. You've got a
So-
running back. Your skilled players are looking really good.
Yeah. Jalen Hurts, Devontae Smith, A.J. Brown, all locked in for the next 5 years. I mean, you got to be kidding me.
Yes.
You
Smith,
got
yep,
3
yep.
star players
Yes.
all locked in for the next 5 years. And the best part is everyone else on the offense is locked in for at least another 3.
Yeah.
Like, you got to be kidding me.
You got to go defense now.
Our whole offensive line locked in for at least another 3.
Yeah.
Some more than that, right? And then you go to our tight end. I think he's locked in for 2 or 3. Saquon Barkley locked in for 3, right?
It's amazing how they fit these contracts. When you look at what you guys just paid just
Mhm.
this offseason,
Absolutely.
it's insane money.
Well, this is the thing.
But they're masters at figuring out how to do the cap and
Yeah.
how to manipulate things. And it's pretty crazy.
Well, I think the big thing too is what Howie's saying right now is let me get ahead of everyone else here. Let me invest in these guys now. We obviously know they're studs. That's no question. We know that A.J. Brown's not just going to fall off after year 5, right?
Right.
He's put up 1,000 yards every year that he's been in the league. He's not just going to fall off tomorrow.
He's
That's not going to happen.
He's not bad.
He set a season record last year.
Yeah.
Right? Was it 6 games, 135 yards or something like that?
Yeah.
You know he's not going to fall off tomorrow. Why not sign him to a 5-year now? Because guess what? We're going to continue to pay him normally for the next 2 years, right?
Right.
And then in 5 years, we're going to start paying that contract. Well, in the next 2 years, you got Justin Jefferson, who's going to get paid $35 million a year. You got Jamar Chase, who's going to get $32 million a year, right?
That's what's great is signing these guys early.
oh my god.
Because the later you go, everybody has to do one up.
Oh,
And I think I
gosh.
said Adams earlier, but obviously it's Smith. I mean, you can't double team anybody on this team.
No, you can't.
It's single
Well,
coverage.
Are you going to stack the box against Saquon
No.
in the
No.
top 3 O-line?
Yeah.
No, you're not. And then you're stuck with, are you going to double cover AJ? Well, no, you can't because you got Devontae.
He's a beast.
And our tight end, when he's healthy, I'd say he's a top 5 all-around tight end. Maybe
Yeah.
not pass-catching tight end, but
Yeah.
he blocks and he catches is just as well as most guys out there in the league.
It looks like they're talking to their right now. They don't show it, but they're obviously talking to the guy that they're picking. And
Oh my
boy,
gosh.
you know, when I went to Philadelphia and we went and watched the Eagles 49ers last year, I saw a few fans like that. And all I know as a 49er fan, I remember zipping up my coat
Yeah.
and talking quietly.
You
'cause
know, honestly,
you don't mess with some Philly fans.
This is the surprising thing. The environment we were in for that 49er Philadelphia Eagle game, much bigger game
Yeah.
than the Seahawks Philadelphia Eagle game I went to. way more normal, actually. You know, you always think Philadelphia fans crazy at home. 49er fans definitely not the most sane, right? You think you got two franchises that have very passionate fan bases, right? Yep. And you're thinking, you know, someone's going to get stabbed. You know, honestly, the craziest part about it, I felt way more in danger with Grace, and we were at the Seahawks game, and I felt like I was in danger almost the whole time. You know, at least when we were at the Eagles 49ers game, I didn't feel really in danger the whole time. To be fair, I wasn't a 49er.
Yeah. It helps to be the home side.
Yeah, it helps to be the home side.
I was a little more worried, I'll be honest, but people were really friendly.
Yeah.
There was a few little rowdy things going on. There was some funny chants.
Yeah.
I thought there's a lot of creativity there. But it looks like the pick is in. Philly's going to be making their pick.
Oh, gosh.
Holy Toledo. We'll see if you get your guy.
Ooh, man, don't overthink it.
Let's see.
Don't overthink it. I mean, we just need to go simple here. We take the number 1 overall guy on our big board, and we just move on. We go into the second round. Listen, this is the best part about it. We didn't have to move up for him, right?
And you would have. You would have. As a GM,
choice.
You would have.
Yeah.
Well, we'll see if they want him. If they take him. Mitchell.
Absolutely.
We'll see if he goes. He's
Here we go.
talking.
Oh, man, I'm just so nervous. I'm going to lose it. Oh, man. I just need that name to pop up on the board real quick.
Well, you guys started off so good in your season, and the defense was really what kind of let you down there the last half of the season.
Yep.
Last third of the season. So we'll see where you go.
Oh, this is a long conversation. He has to be talking about some sort of support.
He's doing this all the time. I think he's promoting himself very well. So.
Yeah, you know, maybe he's thanking the U.S. Navy now. He thanked the Air Force a little bit earlier, so maybe he's thanking the Navy. I'd be all for it.
Oh, boy. Let's see what they do. The Eagles are up.
Man, did you see the highlights earlier? They had Marvin Harrison locked up against this Quinyon Mitchell kid. I just think after watching those highlights, I was like, oh, I'm sold. Yeah. Listen.
If you can play him tough.
Oh, my God. If you can play Marvin Harrison Jr. tough, I think you got it. I think you can do it in the next league.
Well, we'll see.
And you got to remember, whatever cornerback we end up selecting, he's going to go play against 2 of the best receivers in the league in camp.
Yeah.
In camp. So this guy's going to be tested.
Well, they've spent so much money on the offense. So
there's Jordan Mailata. Oh, my gosh. I love this guy. Rugby player turned football. He's in Australia
live
right
in
now.
Australia.
That is awesome.
So
look at that.
The Philadelphia's pick. So,
oh my gosh, I think I'm gonna sweat here a little bit.
Oh yeah, you got him, Mitchell. You got your cornerback. Good for
there
you.
It is. Listen, you know, there's one thing we don't do around here in Philadelphia, and that's make mistakes. Shout out to the Cowboys. Anyways,
it's nice that you got your guy. This is what's fun is when you do the draft, you do the mock, and you hope.
Yeah,
and you're like, you couldn't ask for more than this.
Yeah.
You would trade up for him. You didn't have to.
Yep.
And you got him. So
look at right here. I have him falling to 22.
Yeah.
Falling to 22, Quinyon Mitchell. You
there
can
you
see
go.
it on film. I'm going to put a check mark right next to it. We haven't been perfect today on our mock draft, but we were there. And
nobody's ever perfect. And when they take Penix Jr. at 8, nobody picked that.
Yeah. I mean, let's see if they pull up the Marvin Harrison highlights. Now, you got to remember, this is a small school, right? This is a smart school. But they go in and they play bigger schools. And you see them locked up with some of these really top-tier wide receivers, and they win. They win at the ball. And you got to remember, you know, one person told me this one time. He said, if you're going to pick linemen, pick them from big schools because that's where they're really tested.
Right.
But someone told me one time, they said, you know, it's the skill positions where you'll find them stacked up in D3 schools.
Yes.
He goes, there's just so many great wide receivers, cornerbacks, the guys that are the small, lanky guys, fast, quality guys. The difference between a D1 and a D3 is insanely close. And, you know, I guess what I would say is it doesn't scare me at all. This guy comes from a small school. I see that he's been tested. He's walking on the stage now. I think he's that guy.
Well, he's got that swag. He's got that confidence. He looks like he's somebody that can play, and on film, he looked like he was a real deal. So
there
here he is right now
Marvin
against
Harrison.
Marvin Harrison Jr. So, you know, he looks like he's looking the quarterback the whole way, and they're showing a replay of him, and
flips the hips.
He's able to adjust and hold a little bit and get away with it. Which, if you
We're
do
all
it right in
with
the NFL, as long as you get away with it, it's not a flag.
Yeah.
There's a lot of holding there too, so they might need to perfect that a little bit. But
hey, here's the deal. You know, we talked about how he's going to get a lot of experience just getting to go against Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown every day. But I don't want to miss also saying that James Bradbury Darius Slay, both 30-year-old plus cornerbacks. There's a lot to be learned from those guys.
Right. And they're on their way down, but they can teach.
Correct.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
They're going down, but they can teach a lot. So
Well,
that's
it's good to have you,
huge.
Trent. I'm glad that your team went with who you were hoping for. That makes you feel good. I mean, I know last year for me, they went in a different route, my team, every time, and that was always depressing. So it's fun when you get what you want. So congratulations, and we will be back with the Dallas Cowboys coming up next.
Thank you.
All right, we are back, and we are on the 24th pick, and I am privileged to have a good friend of mine, Grant Peltzer, Dallas Cowboy longtime fan. We have gone at it back and forth for years and years.
Many years.
And one of my closest friends, great to have you with us. What do you think
Thank you,
right
Randy.
now where we're at in the draft, and what do you think in the Cowboys need?
Well, I'm a little nervous because it's Jerry Jones. You never know what he's going to do. I'm really wanting Jackson Powers Johnson, center, out of Oregon. I would be happy with the young man Graham. What's his name?
So you being an Oregon fan would be
Graham
perfect
Barton.
for you
Yeah.
as well.
We need a center. We lost Tyler Biadasz to free agency. Before that, Travis Frederick, he had to retire from injury. So I think offensive line is a key, and that's why I kind of partial being a Duck fan. Kind of
Yeah.
want Jackson Powers Johnson. So I'd be ecstatic. But I also think they tend to draft locally, so I would not be surprised if they didn't want offensive line with Tyler Guyton out of Oklahoma,
Mhm.
and they may add to their linebacker core with Edgerrin Cooper out of Texas A&M. So I'm kind of thinking that they'll either go offensive line or hit a linebacker.
Linebacker.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what do you think the Cowboys need to do to get over the hump? And because you guys are like always in that realm of you have hope and you think we're so close. We could do it, and you're just a little bit short each time. So, which is, as a 49er fan, I'm totally good with that. If you guys want to be right in the middle of the draft, I think that is a great place. But what do you think they need?
Honestly, I think they need a general manager, and I'm being serious. I think Jerry's ego is it's still enormous, and I don't think they're going to be successful unless he loosens the reins. But it's funny because it seems like every other year they draft really well.
Yeah.
But being the most hated team in the NFL, or most disliked team in the NFL, it's a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
It's like being a Yankee fan, being in New York. I mean, Dallas, you either love them or you hate them.
Yeah.
Unfortunately,
Well, I'd agree. Jerry Jones's ego is probably as big as that hat you're wearing right now.
it's a beautiful hat, isn't it?
How long have you been a Cowboys fan?
I've been a Cowboy fan probably since 1974 when I started watching football
Yes.
with my dad, and living here in Washington all my life. I'm older than the Seahawks, so I'm not a local fan.
Right.
So I've just stuck with the Cowboys, and it's just ironically that they are who they are.
Yeah. Well, they say they're America's team, but the promotion, the one thing you can say about Jerry Jones, he's promoted his team really well, and they are known all around the world.
Oh,
So,
yes. Yeah.
and there's something to be said about that from the making of the money. But it's just getting over the hump. What do you see going forward? Do you think Dallas will sign Dak to another long-term contract?
No, I don't. I think they'll let it play out, and we'll see how he does. If he makes it to the NFC Championship game this year, of course, that was another option that
Oh my goodness, they just said it. Dallas just traded their pick to Detroit. So we won't know for a little while what they did.
and that was another thing, Randy, that I was going to say. I would not be surprised, and I'm not, that they traded out because they only have 7 picks.
Yeah.
So I think that hopefully they got something, maybe a couple picks for.
Well, it looks like
moving
Detroit
up.
has the 29th pick. So you're
So-
moving down.
So this means I get to come back.
You get a comeback.
Yes.
Yes, you get a comeback. And now maybe what's cool about trading back 5, you might still get the same player.
That's true.
And
That's what I'm
and in
hoping.
this range, you might have people graded similar. And if you have 2 or 3 people in
Yeah.
that spot and
Yeah.
there's only 5 left,
So I've got
get an extra
I've
third round
got-
pick or whatever.
I've got 4 people on my list. Good chances we'll get one. Dallas will draft one of those players.
So
or
then
at
you got to
least.
be happy.
I'll be happy.
Well, you mentioned 3 guys, right? Or
Yeah.
you mentioned 3. So if
Right.
maybe those players will still be available.
Yeah, maybe
you
so.
might lose your center. I don't think your center is going to make it 29. But you
I'd
never
have to
know.
I'd have to look at the teams ahead of them now to
Right.
see for need.
Right.
So there's a lot of offensive players going. So
Look at you getting
We'll see.
extra picks. What do you think? They probably got they probably moved back to the 29th, so that's 5 picks back. So that's a couple hundred points. It could be a couple 4th round
maybe
picks, could be a
maybe
third
or
round.
4th
Yeah.
round pick, maybe one pick.
There's been some great players
Yeah.
taken in the 3rd round.
Maybe they got another first round pick next year.
Yeah. No, I don't think so.
Wishful thinking.
That is really
yeah.
that is really wishful thinking.
What really would have been interesting is if they would have traded with the 49ers.
Oh, those two.
Yeah.
No. After the 49ers gave away Haley, I still
It was a
can't get
great
over that.
trade.
That
Yeah.
was one of the most foolish things I think they got a 2nd round pick. Who cares who they got?
You realize Charles Haley
That brings up
went
bad
into
memories.
the Hall of Fame as a Cowboy, right?
Well, that's because he ended that way. He's been hit in the head so many times he can't remember back to the original days. So there's some memory loss there. But
I've got a really close, dear friend of mine that I call my brother. He's I know he's fallen and hit in his head several times during his lifetime.
I think one of the things that's great when I think of those rivalries and they've been so good, I think 1981 was just a beautiful moment when the torch was passed to, in my opinion, the greatest quarterback of all time.
Well, I would
but
totally disagree with you there.
great memories though.
Yeah,
They've
but
had some really
that's
good
before-
rivalries.
That's before they had instant replay, and they would have called offensive pass interference.
Oh boy.
On
Oh,
that
boy.
play. But that's I'm over it.
Good because
I'm
Ed,
over it.
not
It's
tall
okay.
enough Jones, didn't get in Montana's way, and the catch is history. But thank you for joining us. We'll see you back here in just a few
You
picks.
got it.
Maybe we'll have you back, and maybe they'll trade again.
Very
see
good.
See you in a bit.
See you, buddy.
All right, we are back, and the Chiefs have now just traded up, and we are joined by Cameron Harkleroad. He's a Chiefs fan, and the Chiefs have done obviously as good as you possibly could. Back-to-back champions, pretty impressive. They are about to pick. They made the trade up. Who do you think what position would you like to see them take?
We've lost a few of our secondary guys. I don't know. I haven't been here for the whole draft, so I don't really know what's left on the board, but a secondary guy would be nice. But, Patrick Mahomes being the most valuable player in the league, just pound for pound, talent-wise, it's always nice to get offensive linemen. We already have a fairly solid line, so we don't need it necessarily, but it would be nice to strengthen that, as always. But I think our biggest weakness is probably secondary or offensive line. So one of those two would be definitely helpful.
Do you think possibly, I agree with you. Patrick Mahomes is the best quarterback going by far. And so you lose him, and that would be the one player in the league, if he's gone, would make the massive amount of difference between wins and losses.
Absolutely.
So protecting him is everything. Also, you could maybe, it wouldn't hurt a receiver too, possibly, but receivers are really hard to hit on. They
Yeah.
are a guessing game in the first round, especially. So
Definitely. We have Rasheed Rice, and we re-signed MVS, so that's nice to have. Kadarius Toney is there, but I don't trust him personally. But let's see the pick here. See what he says.
So they're about to announce the pick, but as they've been doing this draft, each time he gets up, he spends a couple minutes bragging about different things, and then they introduce the other two people, and they talk for a while, and then by then there's usually a trade that happens, and then you never actually got to hear your pick.
That's true.
So it does take a little bit of time, but the Chiefs trading up, it was interesting. What's interesting to me I don't know that they'll pick an offensive lineman because maybe that's not their number one need, like
Yeah.
you say. But the 49ers need an offensive lineman who's right in front of them. The Ravens need an offensive lineman who is right in front of them. Both could also use cornerbacks. So it's interesting. They're trading above people that need cornerbacks, and offensive linemen.
That's true.
So it'll be interesting to see if that's what they're taking, but you never know.
It's
I
very
mean,
possible.
the Ravens also though need a linebacker. So the pick is now, I think, finally going to be made here in just a minute. I don't understand why it takes 10 minutes. They say it's 10 minutes, and then they say the pick is in for 4 minutes, and then 7 minutes after they say the pick is in, they actually make the pick. So the selection's coming. We'll see if the Chiefs, they did go wide receiver.
Wow.
So I think a lot of people thought down the road, especially as the year was going on, that was the one weakness they thought they had. So, but Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid, they're so good that they hide it a little bit. So
Yeah, I would say
it's a worthy pick.
that the wide receiver definitely felt like the weak point when we traded away Tyreek Hill. It definitely scared me a little bit because I was like, okay, we're losing our top wide receiver, But then I thought to myself, well, we still have MVS, we have these rookie receivers, that they're doing all right, and we have Travis Kelce, who is basically a receiver at that point, with as much as we use him for receiving, as opposed to like a George Kittle where he's just mainly there for blocking.
Right.
So having those main players, and then our run game was like very strong last year, which was amazing. But yeah, I'm not disappointed with the pick, but I do feel like there was other things we needed more than a receiver.
Yeah.
Personally.
Well, when you won back-to-back championships, it's not like you can say, well, maybe they do know what they're doing.
Yeah,
so
that's true.
They did their thing. So, well, thanks for joining us, and
Thanks for having me.
we'll come back, and I think Dallas is maybe up next after they traded back. So thanks for joining us, Cameron. All right, we're back, and Dallas is about to pick after going down to the 29th pick, and
Tyler Guyton.
They just took the tackle.
I figured that was one of the guys that they were going to take. I was hoping for a center, but
if it helps you at all, this is what the 49ers needed. They needed the offensive tackle, so you just took somebody from the 49ers who obviously is a rival of yours, so they're rivals with each other. So not only are you getting a player that you could use, but you're taking away something the 49ers could have used. So that feels a little good.
But what happens if Jackson Powers Johnson goes to the 49ers?
Oh, I'm going to tell you, as a 49er fan, I will be very happy. I am surprised he's still available.
Well, the 49ers seem to be, why don't we just call them the Oregon Ducks?
Oh, good night.
Minus the...
They've done well. They've done
quarterback.
well with Buckner, Armstead, Lenore.
Yeah, done
and
very well.
Maybe now we're going offense.
Yeah, we'll see.
We'll see.
We'll
So
see.
how do you feel about Guyton overall? Where do you think your tackle situation is?
They lost Tyler. They have Tyler Smith. The guy, their tackle that they signed with, I'm forgetting his first name.
Yeah. But
with the Jets. So I knew that they were going to go offensive line. I figured that that's where they were going to go.
Well, Guyton was mocked up higher in this too. So
like I said earlier, they tend to stay around their Oklahoma, Texas for offensive linemen. So or best available. So it doesn't surprise me they went with the Oklahoma.
If you can get a good offensive tackle and a third-round pick.
Oh yeah.
Your third-round pick could be a starter.
And I believe there's another center out of West Virginia that's high on the list. So maybe we'll see who they grab with that third-round pick. I'm kind of curious.
We'll see. Yeah. So, well, congratulations. Yeah. We'll see how they do and see if you guys can get back into the playoffs. And you never know. Maybe you can make some things happen.
Maybe.
All right.
I hope so.
All right. We'll see. Thank you for joining us, Grant.
You bet. Thanks.
All right, we are now up with the 49ers pick. They are on the clock with 2.5 minutes to go. They're the 31st selection coming up. The two players that I thought they were going to be taking were now off the board at 29 and 30. I'm joined by Rick Goode. Rick, what do you think the 49ers need? They've come very, very close and fell short in the Super Bowl. What position do you think the 49ers need?
I think something that it's overlooked. It's not a sexy position. I think it's cost us 2 Super Bowls. I think that right side of our offensive line, I go back 2 Super Bowls ago and I see 3 balls batted down at the offensive line. I mean, we can't even put a hand in the stomach of a guy. We can't even push him. Guy gets to vertical leap like a basketball player, uncontested. You would think after he knocked down the second ball that maybe someone, somewhere, some genius would have, I don't know, done something, but it didn't happen. And, there's all these high-paid positions, and I think that position is overlooked. And the problem is with an offensive lineman, they're so underpaid. If you go down to the 30th spot, you're looking at about $15 million for a guy. And when you're looking at your budget for the team, guys aren't letting go of that lineman. For $15 million, it's like you're keeping him. It's just such a low value. So the place you got to get your studs, I think, is in this draft.
Yeah.
And you just don't see in free agency super awesome offensive lineman letting go. You don't let go of a guy for $15 million. You sign him. And, our last Super Bowl, Chris Jones, I mean, the guy, I think he's arguably our worst player on the team is on.
It's both the right guard and the right tackle.
Yeah.
And our player got hurt in that game. So now you're with your backup of your weak spot.
That's what I was going to say. Yeah. And, if that guy could have gone like this, fell down on the ground,
At least
done
made him
anything,
jump over
make him
him.
jump over you.
Yeah.
We had a wide open guy because I think the defensive guy fell down.
Overtime, Ayuk, there's nobody within 7 yards of him.
All we needed was a quarter of a second, half of a second. And so the other thing with this offensive line is when it's that bad, the other team can go, okay, Mr. Shanahan, you got great play action, all this, but this side of your offensive line stinks. So that affects how you run the ball. That affects everything. And so you better have a Brock Purdy or a guy with a super great mental processor, and because it isn't going to work without that.
The unfortunate thing is Guyton was a guy that the 49ers would have liked to have taken. He went 2 picks before that. The 49ers also need cornerbacks, as we've got a whole bunch of people that are free agents next year, and one of the best cornerbacks just went right before that to the Ravens. So 2 of the players that I really wanted in the 20s just went right before us. I wish at 31 we could trade back. We're not great at picking great picks in the first round, and so it's nice to have the extra pick. The pick is in, so it does look like the 49ers are going to pick, but I agree with you. Brock Purdy has a unique, I would say elite ability to make quick decisions. He doesn't have an elite arm strength, but he processes really well. And you give him a quarter more second, a half a more second especially, you can do some really good things with somebody that processes so well. So it'll be interesting. The thing that's hard is offensive lineman. Do you take the 40th best player at the 31st pick because you're needing that? So will they go by need or availability? It looks like the commissioner is about to announce it. Sometimes he takes some time to do it, but the pick is in, and we went wide receiver, Florida. Wow. So that tells me a couple things. It doesn't necessarily mean that we're getting rid of Ayuk, but we will be losing Juwan Jennings next year. And if we keep Ayuk, we are going to be getting rid of Debo, I think, at the end of next year, because then we can save a whole bunch of money. So this might be a pick to replace potentially Debo next year. But if you keep both of them and you have Jennings, this is an interesting pick. He's a good player, but they must have had him as best available, and they didn't want to reach, and they probably thought in the second round they can get their tackle, because the tackles were really good. There was a handful of them, and then there's a handful that are all in that second round range. So because Guyton's gone, I think this pick was made. I think it was changed, and I'm not too mad about changing things rather than overreaching. Was they just showed an unbelievable. That
Nice
was like
grab.
an Odell Beckham catch. That was
one-hander just
that
snagged.
was a glove catch. That was amazing. So this is always great. They show the draft room afterwards, and everybody typically is always really, really happy. Although the 49ers are just in discussion
we need
mode.
the offensive
So
linemen, though. I
They're-
mean, this is all great, and they may be gone, but at the end of the day, when you telegraph to the entire NFL, like, all you have to do, this is where you beat us up. I mean,
what's interesting is last year they needed offensive linemen, and they went the whole draft with 10 picks or
and the year
whatever it
before,
was.
same thing.
Not one offensive lineman.
Same thing the year before. You'd think you'd
So-
learn in the Super Bowl.
But-
And, I look at the Chiefs, and where are they rated? Now, you've got a great quarterback, undoubtedly, but how's their offensive line?
Yeah.
Oh, happens to be top 5. And you go to the Ravens, and they got a great quarterback, but where are they rated? Oh, they just happen to be top 5 offensive line. And there's and how are the Eagles? Oh, they just happen to be top rated.
Well, at least you can say this. The 49ers are consistent. They go where you don't think they're going to go.
I think we're in the bottom. Literally, I think we're in the bottom. We were rated, I think, like number 26 for our offensive line. Number 26. And that's with
Trent
like, with
Williams,
Trent.
one of the greatest of all
Like,
time.
We got the stud of studs over there,
Yeah.
and we're still rated number 26. So,
Yeah.
anyhow, we got a
Well,
wide receiver.
maybe the second round. I always have to do this. Every draft I go, well, maybe the next round. And then we take a kicker in the third round. So whatever. We'll go forward. We'll see where it happens. This is the last pick. Carolina is up, but this has been a fun draft. I want to thank everybody for joining us. Remember, if you hit the subscribe button, it would be helpful to us. It helps us get out our content, and we're having a lot of fun. We will next week be coming back, and we will be discussing our thoughts on the draft in general, the winners and the losers. I already, have some opinions right now, but I'll have to sleep on some things and see where they're at in the second, third, and fourth rounds going forward. But thank you guys for joining us, and we will see you again soon.